welcome to our discussion on the evolving landscape of employee benefits management. We have the pleasure of speaking with a key figure in this field, Mayo, the Chief Technology Officer at Alula Technologies. In our conversation, we'll delve into the challenges, technological advancements, and potential future directions in employee benefits management. We aim to provide a comprehensive view of how Alula Technologies approaches these aspects. Calvin, thank you for joining us.
How's it, Nelson? Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Let's dive right into the discussion. Calvin, many businesses today face significant challenges in managing employee benefits effectively. Could you share with us how the member engagement platform specifically addresses these common pain points?
Well, I think, it's in the name to begin with, member engagement. So we aim to take that last mile from the actual benefit into the member's pocket and give the member personalized information around what they have, how they can use it, and shine a light on the employer's value proposition. I think it's quite an important piece for a company today to be able to illustrate to their employees in a real, tangible way what they are, how seriously they take their financial well-being, their mental wellness, and even their health. In distributed workforces, some of them global, it's quite a difficult thing to manage. So having something that measures itself on bringing members back and helping them understand, educating them and engaging them is an invaluable tool. You can monitor benefit spend, you can monitor engagement with certain benefits or even uptake. And through these data points, it becomes the obvious next evolution of this to provide benefits that actually matter to people. So I think from having everything in one place with all those different aspects is going to make the world of difference to employers all over the world.
It's really great to hear, the shift in being more member-centric, sort of really, creating that value, but also looking at the experience that the members, can have with their benefits. So it's really exciting to hear how that is evolving. The landscape of workplace benefits and employee expectations is constantly evolving. Can you explain how the Alula solution has adapted to these changes, perhaps more effectively than traditional platforms?
Well, I think the approach that we've taken has evolved over time. So there's the obvious support the benefits that are contractually committed to by the corporate through mechanisms like pensions and life and income protection and that type of thing. But the evolution for us has been adding more value to the member and by extension the employer. Specifically things around health, mental well-being. Those topics are quite prevalent today, and in a distributed workforce where we don't come to the office that much anymore, that sense of being able to stay in touch with people and have those insights into how people are doing is lacking. The technology exists today to actually augment the traditional benefits. The technology exists today to align benefits that you may already have with hotspots of issues that exist within your organization, savings habits, mental wellness, health scores even, so you might pick up that a certain member is hypertensive. That's how good these technologies are getting these days. Interventions can be put in place for this type of thing. So I would argue that, as much as the traditional stuff is there and all these new things are there, I think we're taking it into the new age where we're getting much closer to that person. And why I think that person is more important to focus on is we've all had the one-size-fits-all benefit. We've all had the pension that we don't understand and we hear from once a quarter and we don't really know how it fits into the rest of our portfolio. The time for that type of engagement is long gone. The take-up of some of those platforms is low. One of the providers shared with us that their platform, sure, it's looking inwards and it's only their product, is below 5. Whereas where we focus on the actual employee or the member, they have products all over the place. They have medical aid and income protection and gap cover and funeral and pensions, etc. Most of the time with different providers, a lot of the time different brokers. But that complication around how you deliver that EVP to your member is not their problem, really. It's a problem from a management perspective. So yes, we look after that aspect, but from a member's perspective, having everything in one place provided by the employer gives a semblance of comfort, gives a lot more information and a lot more relevance to what those things are. And the more data that we surface, the more specific these things can become. The more we can align programs or educational aspects or, as I mentioned, interventions with what we're seeing in our organization. So I think the future is bright when it comes to this. And what we need to be thinking of is keeping these people engaged and healthy and well to create our own differentiator in the market. It's becoming a bit of a battle place in the talent acquisition and the talent retention world. So I believe the more you can be showing to do these types of things that are more member-centric, the better for your brand.
It's interesting to hear. It's really taking personalization as well as engagement to the next level in the employee benefit space. Shifting to the business side, so every business seeks an edge in compliance, cost saving and efficiency. In what specific ways does the platform provide this competitive advantage over standard industry practices?
Well, I think from the Ovation perspective specifically, we engaged it, yes, from the member, but there's other actors in the chain that need to take part to provide that benefit to the member. You have a broker in a lot of cases, you have the corporate, and the key aspect here is payroll. Everyone knows what they get paid. Everyone knows what their contracted annual salary is. Most people don't know what they contribute to X, Y, and Z. So being able to elaborate that a little bit more, I think is key. Having those payroll integrations or that insight on payroll right at the member consumption level is hugely beneficial. We've taken away layers of complication and layers of administration, layers of potential liability and error. If a member, for example, in a pension hands in a form to do a switch, if that gets lost by corporate or the pension fund provider, they're on the hook. They're on the hook to actually fix that person's pension when the time comes, or if the member unfortunately raises it with the ombudsman, etc. But in a system where all these different actors and platforms are talking to each other, it's audit trailed, it's handed over to the correct actor at the correct time. Feedback is provided to the member, and that entire process becomes completely seamless. And if you think about it going into the future, it could actually start chipping away at some of these frictional costs, which are baked in. If I can't read a form and I have to recapture stuff, those types of things are actually baked in by administrators, and understandably so, given where we've come from. But today's platforms are much, much better at being able to do this in a more efficient way. I would also like to say that the payroll aspect of it is becoming incredibly intriguing. So an employee benefits management system sitting on top, like Ovation, takes away a lot of what payroll even has to focus on. Payroll has to support the fact that you have to make a contribution to this, or a premium needs to be deducted for that. It's great. But now we've got payroll platforms developing employee benefit solutions, which isn't their key focus, but it is ours. We can develop the rules, the eligibility, waiting periods, whatever it takes to deliver this to your workforce. We take on that responsibility and tell payroll what it needs to know. And what it needs to know is what that deduction is, what that premium is, what selection was made so that your payslip looks correct. The combination of the platforms has become incredibly important to actually removing a lot of that cost layer. And from a corporate's perspective, I would strongly believe that once you've taken that entire paper layer away from your staff, your HR, they can go and focus on your people, which is why you hired them in the first place. And that in turn makes your company more personable, which can only help, which can only define your brand or differentiate your brand a bit more.
That makes a lot of sense. Thinking about relieving those manual challenges can only sort of increase confidence in the processes around that, and which obviously is a great benefit for members. We're witnessing a technological revolution in HR management systems. How does the integration of cloud-based technology in the platform align with these broader trends?
Well, being a cloud-native application to begin with has really enabled us to integrate at scale and very quickly. Payroll providers are coming along on the journey, providers are coming along on the journey, all with a view to looking at the member and making it a little bit more seamless. The toys that we have today are so much more better from a development perspective. In 2000 and pre-2010, I would argue was quite rudimentary, and quite labor intensive. We can, with the technologies today, using cloud, using some of the cloud platforms out there, everything from integration platforms to payroll, etc., enables us to get there quicker. I don't think the age of waiting 6 months for something new or whatever to drop is around anymore. With what we have today, we can drop new features, we can drop new integrations in weeks. It's not necessarily the old adage of long development cycles and testing cycles and that type of stuff, which enables us all, every one of those actors, to address a person's needs quicker. And that for me is utopia, because the last thing we want is 6 months to wait for something simple, where it's really important to how I look at this benefit or how I can use this benefit. And having to wait 6 months because there's some convoluted development cycle in the background, again, isn't my problem. I want to be able to interact with it faster, and the employer also wants me to interact with it faster as it provides value to them, that you're happy.
Great. Your closing thought. Looking into the future, how is the platform preparing to navigate and lead the upcoming shifts in employee benefits management? What's your vision for continuing to disrupt the industry?
So I think partnerships are a big one for us. We have our strengths. We have a lot of tools in the shed. We're cross-pollinating a lot of them. So offering health scans and health scores as an employee benefit is the best example right now. Partnerships are important because I think it's important that we all do what we're best at. So payroll is good at being payroll. What they need to do from their compliance and tax perspective is quite a bit different from what we need to do from an employee benefits perspective and even a member engagement perspective. Member engagement is not a concern across a payroll system, for example. Partnerships around learning management, it's another hot topic. It's not something you necessarily want to go and do when your strength doesn't lie there. A half-baked solution is just going to take you a lot of investment and very little value for some time, whereas partnering with best-of-breed applications or best-of-breed platforms gets you there quicker. There is quite a big shift, and even if you look at how Microsoft has done it, I would argue 10 years ago they were very secretive about what they did, and they didn't share, and they didn't play nicely with other platforms. But that's all changed. It's bring your own tooling, bring your own development methodology, keep the tools that you like using, but use DevOps, for example. Use us as your cloud platform, but even so, you don't have to. You can deploy to AWS, and you can monitor VMs on AWS. All that type of stuff, I think, is a great example about where the future growth lies. I mean, look at their last earnings report. They've got to be onto something, right? So I think those partnerships for us are great. And then a North Star for me would be within the group, we partner with a lot of insurers. You know, they use our administration system, which is a key capability within the org. It would be really interesting to take personalization to the next level. If you think about running their back office for them through Exergy, we could help those insurers understand more about their client base, given that we are literally in their pocket. We are measuring how they engage with our platform. We are augmenting the data that we have around their benefits with health information, wellness information, you know, consent being allowed, life events, you know, all that type of stuff, which is hugely important or hugely valuable to an insurer. But imagine if we could take that information and personalize product to you specifically. And how we would do that is very simply, we know how old you are, what your health is like, what your savings are like, or what your savings habits are like, etc., etc. If we could feed that back to an insurer and have them tailor product for a person like you, or a group of people like you, we could start chipping away at costs that don't need to be baked in, which right now is how they do it, right? We create a product that has 300 benefits in it, but certain age groups, certain demographics, etc., will only use a small percentage thereof. If we could chip away some of that fat, we could actually start pushing product that is really relevant to that person at that life stage today. And I think for me, we're heading in that direction. It's becoming more and more possible every day. I mean, the data points I've spoken about already exist. We have them. It's about stitching it together and having that feedback loop back into the product providers, and having them help us and help those members achieve financial outcomes, achieve healthy lives and mental wellness. And as I mentioned, it's there. The tools are there. The opportunity to do this is what we're looking for.
Great. Calvin, thank you for your time and the insights you've shared with us today. It's been a pleasure discussing these important topics with you, and we greatly appreciate your contributions to this conversation.
Cheers, Nelson. Thanks for having me.